Here we go. We are live. We are recording. We're live in studio right now. But before we officially get this thing rolling, I just wanted to say thank you to all those who have supported me, who have helped me, who have contributed to this project, this podcast. I love to talk as much as I love to listen. So without further ado, I present to you the first episode from the outside in. Here's my guest, Mr. Christopher Urban-Klein.
Hello.
How are you today, Mr.
I'm reasonable, I guess. I'm having a pretty bad day. Sorry to bring it into your studio here, but one of my big things I'm learning to do is to be authentic about my feelings. And today I don't feel well.
Yeah. Well, everybody's subject to those days once in a while, so I think that, you just work through it and take care of yourself the best way you know how, and, you'll get through.
That's what I'm working on.
Yeah, that's good.
So what did you want to talk about? Why do you have me here today?
I've got you here because, there's just a lot going on. We've had a lot of conversations about, the state of affairs going on today, the state of affairs that, was going on 100 years ago, thousands of years ago, millions of years ago. And just kind of want to cover a little bit of, what the dealio is here. So I started reading this book, George Orwell, 1984, and it talks about, well, I have it right here. It talks about sort of dystopian state, and all the wild things that go on, Big Brother, and how they're always watching you, and a lot of stuff that's going on today. I decided to move this book into my non-fiction section, because so many things are coming true. It's really difficult to see, with a lot of this stuff going on. Because there's this entire, what I believe is an agenda against humanity, spiritual warfare going on, and it's an entire web of things. And it's much deeper than the surface. On the surface, you see, all these political issues, all these race issues, all these, let's just blame it on Donald Trump. Let's just blame it on climate change. Blame it on, this or that or whatever it may be, blame it on China, Russia. It's much deeper than that. Because there are higher ups, there are James. Getting there. Okay. There is, as I think you're aware of, 1% of the world, the higher ups, the families, the Rockefellers, the Rothschilds, Fitch, few. I feel a lot more know about them than you think. I think a lot of work more towards a world not controlled by them. But the education systems, they're all the Rockefellers putting out there is whatever they want you to hear.
Yeah, well, actually, bring up education. That's one of my specialty areas.
Yeah, it is.
The current United States public education system was originally in its current form was developed and instituted in Chicago. I do believe it's kind of its birthplace, like the current public system of almost like more memorization of things. Chicago Institute in Chicago for factory workers for children. That's why it so strongly resembles factories. That's why schools strongly factories. The bells, desks in rows, yada. Because it was meant for factory workers' children. It was meant for the children who grow up to be factory workers.
Yeah, and that plays into their narrative of just living a monotonous life. You wake up and you do the same things, and it's so commonly portrayed.
Thankfully, we have a choice.
Yeah, we do. A lot of people are starting to see that, but a lot of people also are still kind of in the dark. But I'm glad because there are billions of people that are waking up each day, and humanity, nature will prevail. It always does. We've seen this throughout the course of the however many years this planet's been around, dating back to the times of Jesus. It does prevail. And speaking of Jesus, how about we talk about the pyramids, because that was a huge thing. The Bible talks about the Great Pyramids, and how the Israelites, they helped build the pyramids. They were enslaved, and it was very harsh conditions for them. That's what the Bible tells us. I personally think that humans, with the help of aliens, built the pyramids. They're perfect symmetry. They're perfect makeup. And how big they are, to me, that's like, if humans did that, and what they teach us in school is, they didn't have very complicated or advanced tools back then. So if they had the tools that you're telling me they had, they just had simple pulleys and hammers and stuff.
The precision is immaculate.
Right.
The latitude, longitudinal exact points.
It's a speed of light.
That's right. And by the way, the speed of light is variable. It is not a constant, as we were taught that it is. And it varies. Same thing with the force of gravity, it varies. Even here on Earth, different spots, it's different. Now, it's pretty similar, but anyway. Okay, yes. So you wanted to talk about the pyramids.
Yeah, but I mean, they also had this big, I think it was gold, some sort of precious metal cap on top of the pyramid. As not only as a sign of people who buried there were important leaders and kings and pharaohs there, but almost as if
gold is one of the best electric conductors.
Right. What I'm saying, electricity as to communicate with other life forms.
Sure.
Not near us. I have my phone here, I can call somebody. They didn't have phones back then, but they did have these great pyramids with gold tops that could easily, communicate with other people, I think.
I failed to see it immediately. Admittedly, I don't know how you would use a pyramid to communicate with someone.
I mean, we're talking about the aliens. I mean, what do you want? We don't know much about the aliens, but NASA came out and said, we've recovered alien spacecrafts. We've had contact with aliens.
Yeah, I do think that has been kind of. I think it should be discussed more. So I'm glad. I guess we are starting a conversation here about it.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting. Sort of on like the moral and ethical side of things. Like there's a whole place of life or community of life somewhere else, and that's more advanced, because in some ways, at least technologically, because their aircraft has always demonstrated itself to be better than ours. And it, for me, it reminds me of like when Europe went over and colonized the Americas. You had these technologically advanced peoples discovering new land. And I'm not suggesting that we're in danger, like the indigenous peoples of the Americas were, but I do think there are some similarities, and it raises into question moral and ethical questions of how to respond, how to prepare ourselves, and how to carry ourselves.
Yeah. There are so many stories of people having some sort of contact with extraterrestrial beings, less dense beings.
I mean, our mother told me that she had contact with aliens.
Yeah, I've heard that story too.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't remember the story. She went.
So basically, she went over to her friend's house.
Mm-hmm.
She was knocking on the door,
Mm-hmm.
And while she was waiting for an answer, she saw what looked like a UFO,
Mm-hmm.
flying saucer type thing,
Mm-hmm.
in the sky, and it was there for a minute or two, and then it just left. It just disappeared.
Yeah.
And she never told anybody because she thought that people would think that she was crazy.
Yeah, well, they already do.
That's terrible.
Some people do think she's a little nuts.
Yeah. Bring it back to aliens, and less dense beings. Both of us have had profound experiences. I don't know if you remember my story about I was at the Orioles game, and I saw an angel.
I don't.
I met an angel. Maybe it wasn't an angel. I always thought it was. I mean, back then, I was a big, Christian, like angels and all that.
Yeah.
But it was what I think was a less dense being.
Uh-huh. What happened?
So we were there. I remember it was Orioles Mariners. The Orioles were getting blown out, but we stayed because we were big Orioles fans. But anyways, I was sitting down, and I was at the end of our group, so that I was where our group would have intermingled with other groups. And there was this man that was sitting there. He was by himself. He wasn't with anybody. And he was the plainest guy you could ever see.
Yeah.
Just like he was, Caucasian male, short hair, kind of like yours, but just, clean, kempt. I don't remember if he had a beard or not. He might have, been clean shaven. He was wearing a white t-shirt, jeans, and I think black shoes.
Mm-hmm.
And we were just sitting down, and he just started making conversation with me, and I was like, I just felt, like this guy's fine. If it was, random stranger, it didn't feel like a random stranger for some reason. Just, felt like, oh, it's a normal guy. We're having a conversation. And he was asking me, about baseball, if I played, if I was watching the Little League World Series. We were talking about different things. And he got up and he said, "Excuse me, I'll be right back." And so I took that moment to just, watch the baseball game or get a snack, because, we always used to carry peanuts or sandwiches or whatever with us to the games.
How old were you?
I was no older than 10 or 11, I'd say.
Okay.
But I think my sense of time for my childhood is kind of messed up.
Sure. Sorry to interrupt you, so he got up.
Yeah, so he got up, and he came back, and he had a ball. It was an Orioles ball. It was plaid. It had the Orioles symbol, and it was orange and black, and it was really cool. I still have it.
I remember that one.
Yeah. And he gave it to me, and it was wrapped in plastic, and he gave it to me, and he said, I want you to have this. And I was like, oh, thank you, like, that's really cool. Like, I like this a lot, that's awesome. And so I turned around, and remember, this game was, the row was packed. There was people, from side to side of the row. Dad didn't even have a seat, I don't think. He was just kind of standing there, but there was a railing. It must have been a dugout club game because we were pretty high up.
Yeah.
Cheaper seats. But he was standing near the handicap seat because there was nobody there. There was a railing that he could kind of lean on. But I turned around to show Mom the ball because she's sitting right next to me, and she can hear it. She can hear the conversation the whole time. A mother would typically make sure that her child's okay around a stranger that you've never seen before, just making conversation with a kid.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I turn around to show Mom the ball, and then she's like, "That's really cool. Make sure you say thank you." So I turn around to say thank you, and he's gone.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, the exchange between me and Mom couldn't have been more than 10 seconds. Look what he gave me. Oh, that's cool. Make sure you say thank you.
Yeah.
And then I turn around. Keep in mind, the row is completely full of people. You got to say, excuse me, sorry, and wait for people to get up, wait for people to move their legs. There's probably a kid sitting in the aisle that's not aware of what's going on.
Yeah.
So I turn around and say thank you, and this guy's just gone.
Uh-huh.
Like he vanished, he disappeared. Like I was the only one that could see him, or something,
Okay.
And to me, back then, that was an angel. I don't know what it was, but to me, that's a less dense being. That's a friendly ghost, a friendly some sort of less dense being. So to speak. But that's a really cool story I have.
Yeah, that's
And it's the one experience I can say that I've had with less dense beings, ghosts, spirits.
It goes outside the normal realm of human interaction.
Yeah, that I've realized, because I realized that we're surrounded by stuff all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And for the longest time, I used to say, Christmas elf. I was stuck on the whole Christmas elf thing when I was, pretty young. Probably like 6 or 7. And that is probably, 6 or 7, 5, 6, 7, the tail end of when you come out of past life experiences.
When you stop being aware of.
Right. When you stop being aware of your past life experiences. And so that would kind of make sense, the timing of it. Because if now I was like, like Buddy the Elf, I dressed up in an elf suit, I was like, yeah, I'm a Christmas elf, I know Santa, that would have been kind of weird. Like, let's go get him to see somebody, he might need some help. But the elven race is a thing.
Yeah.
They do exist. Elves do exist. So
Still? Currently?
I don't know if they do currently.
Yeah.
I think they do.
Mm-hmm.
But they're not as prominent as something like fairies, which do exist. This guy, I forget his name. He did. Well, I have it here. I sent it to you not too long ago. But this guy, his name is a university professor, John Hyatt, discovered scientific proof of fairies that exist.
I haven't verified that, but yeah, I saw the article.
And you told me that you've seen fairies before, like out of the corner of your eye.
Have I? I don't think I would have said that. I don't remember that.
No, you did. You've definitely said it a few times.
Well, I've forgotten seeing them then.
Yeah. Maybe they're just that magical.
I've read extensively about that, and I will say that there is kind of like an overwhelming body of anecdotal evidence and a body of witness reports, especially coming out of the Irish Highlands in that territory of the earth. A lot of fair activity goes on there, is what I've read. Yeah. And there, a lot of poets, like Yeats, he has been known to delve into the mystical and the almost the fantastic or the fanatical, fantastical elements of life coming from that area.
Yeah. But that's just it's just kind of interesting to me how so many people have been able to pinpoint experiences they've had, but it's suppressed. We're told ghosts aren't real, and we'll make a movie like Ghostbusters, kind of like silly, ghosts aren't real. Like, what are you talking about?
Well, there was a very natural reaction to in Western cultural development in response to the very astringent version of religion that Christianity took on at one point in time, meaning that at one point in time, like, everything associated with the body was bad, and only the higher forms of existence were acceptable. Like bodily interests and pursuits were looked at as evil, sinful. So there's kind of like a counter. There's a response in which body positivity, and it was like, and not that wasn't the response. Body positivity, that's the 2000s thing, but moving into like I think maybe the 1600s, 1700s, once science came around to show, hey, the human body is really great, we should give it some more respect, almost. That was when a lot of the consideration for life outside the human body was kind of like all lumped in together as, no, that's from a time that doesn't make sense. Like, and I'm sorry if I'm not doing a great job explaining what I've read and gathered and put up here. So I'll say this. So this was a lot of during the medieval time, much more commonly discussed, and then in response to the very critical nature of religion, insofar as its critical take on human existence, the counter movement was to basically deify the human existence and ignore or throw the baby out the bathwater in terms of anything outside of the human existence. And that's kind of been the lens through which much of our current processing and living goes on, through the lens of the post-medieval developments of science and religion, which kind of discourages looking at things other than what is very readily perceptible. But yeah, and yeah, I'll leave it there, I guess.
You bring up some interesting stuff about religion, and it does primarily focus on the human aspect of things. At least, like Christianity, it's a whole human. You need to be saved. You need to this. You need to that. And there's these strict laws you follow. And if you don't follow them, then something bad happens to you. And it's a very scare tactic thing. Not.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It used to be.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. It used to be much more.
Right. It did.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying it's that way now. I'm saying, it did used to be that way. Religion is a very interesting thing, because you got your more Eastern religions,
Mm-hmm.
Hinduism, Buddhism, Taoism, which are very peaceful religions. I incorporate stuff from those religions into my everyday life. The idea of mindfulness. Those have kind of trailblazed the way meditation, for a lot of different popular ideas today.
Mm-hmm.
The people don't even know, hey, I'm doing some sort of Eastern religion sacred practice that they would do.
Yeah.
And I think that if more people knew what they were doing and how connected it was, I think people would stop, because they'd be like, oh, I'm Christian, I can't do that. Right? Because I feel like the religions feel like they have to be separate from one another. Right? Well, I'm Jewish, so I can't do that because, it goes against my religion. It's a religious thing. And not that that's bad to follow a religion and follow it to a T, but what I'm saying is so many people incorporate so many different ideas from so many different people and places and, religions
Mm-hmm.
into their everyday life.
Yeah.
That, if they knew it was coming from something that they didn't believe in, they'd probably stop.
I mean, the researcher in me, the scientist in me, has got to ask where you're getting this data from. Like, how many people have you met that said, can't do this? I mean, I think that a lot of people do that, sure. But I think that there are many more people, and I see this as an optimistic thing when I'm saying this. I think there are many more people that are very flexible, as opposed to people who would shut out any idea of some sort of outside, similarity, I should say, but, in their practice, in terms of overlap between different religions. I don't think people are like that, mostly. Admittedly, I feel like I've met more people than you.
Yeah, you have met more people than me, but I've been to a Christian school, as have you, your entire life, and I've seen the way that they taught religion, and how they taught that other religions were false, other religions you couldn't practice them, they weren't right, false gods, you shouldn't do that stuff, and that's why it was so hard for me to break out of that, because they taught you it was so taboo, it was so wrong to do other religions. And there are, a lot of Christian schools across the country that I'm sure are teaching the same ideals.
Maybe, yeah. You've went, yeah. That has not been my experience, thankfully.
Yeah.
I mean, once I got to high school, that's when my what I was exposed to really started to expand, because thankfully I went to a very inclusive type high school, I would say.
Yeah, Calvert Hall is, it's a lot different than Concordia Prep.
Yeah.
I'd say.
Bit more connected.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also different. They're Catholic, Lutheran, similar, but they're gonna do things differently.
Sure. I think that, Calvert Hall purports itself to be Lasallian, which would be a branch of Catholicism, but
yeah,
Lasallian is their official methodology.
Right.
The religious sphere. It's interesting. I went to an elementary school. The people say it was like a cult. I went there for pre-K through 6th grade. And I've heard whispers from people that I kind of know that I went there with. Like, it's a cult. I wasn't there as long as some of those people, and I haven't. When I left, it was kind of sudden, and I didn't see those people again until years and years later. And so they had a bit more experience there than I did, so I don't remember much of it being cult-like, but I think it's interesting to hear that as a little one I was in a place that some people call a cult. It's called Greater Grace Christian Academy.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember one of the things I used to say was you were like, I had gym class, and I was like, who's Jim? Because it was GYM, but I was like, the only Jim I knew was a person that was named Jim,
Mm-hmm.
JIM, when I was little, when I was a kid.
Yeah. Yeah.
Still, I'm a kid. That's another thing. I know I'm only 17. Just turned 17. I feel...
December 26th.
Yeah, December 26th. I feel a lot older than I am. And a lot of people tell me, you're an old soul.
Sure.
But I know I'm very young, but I feel a lot older than I am. I don't feel 17.
It's not uncommon.
But, I mean... And it's I don't think it's a thing where it's like, you think you're much more mature and smarter and intelligent, you're at that age. You think you have everything figured out. I mean, I think I'm like complete opposite. I think I have, a lot figured out, but there is, 10 times more that I don't. Which is why I keep searching and keep going and keep pushing and doing new things.
Yeah.
And I'm constantly, changing up what I do to see what works best.
That's laudable.
Yeah.
What's been working best recently?
In terms of what?
I don't know what you've been changing up. What's something new that you added to your... Do you have a routine, you would say?
Do
you have a daily routine?
Not really.
Well, if it's always changing, how could we call it a routine?
Yeah.
Well, what's something new? What's something new that you've done for the first time?
This podcast.
Okay.
But setting this up, and getting this going
Yeah.
has been a wild ride for me. It's been kind of hectic. I had this idea a few months ago, and I was like, wow, that seems really interesting. And I started thinking about it, and I came up with a name, and I put a YouTube channel together, and I talked to other people. I talked to you, and I talked to Gage, and I talked to few other of my friends, but it was mostly you and Carter and Gage who I was talking to about it, and my friend Jordan. She's helped me with a lot with it. So you guys were the main people I was talking to about it, and getting the microphones for Christmas, and then they don't work. There's a technical difficulty. There have been obstacles. There have been things that I've had to say, you know what? Let's slow down. Let's reevaluate. Let's learn or relearn something. Go back to the basics here. And then regroup, recollect yourself, and then go. We've got a plan.
Yeah.
Set, go. Because a lot of it is preparation for the unprepared. You feel like you're prepared for not okay.
That's a fantastic point. I agree with you.
Preparation for the unexpected.
Yeah.
You're prepared to do it if it goes.
Adaptability and flexibility are highly valuable.
Yeah. If it goes to plan, you're ready. If it doesn't go to plan, what are you going to do if this happens?
Uh-huh.
And that's something that I've had to learn, and that's something that I continue to learn in obstacles that I have reached. Even in life, outside of the podcast. What are you going to do when something happens? Are you going to still try and go to your original plan? Or are you going to, reevaluate? Because a lot of people just have... a lot of people can... Maybe not a lot of people, but some people can just put it in their heads and say... and just ignore it.
I think we're all capable of that.
Yeah. Some more than others. I think it's a choice. I don't want to just have it in my head that everything's fine and that I can just keep going, because then I'm just ignoring, it's like I feel invincible. I don't want to feel invincible. I'm very vulnerable. And that's a good thing, I think, because you're able to adapt and learn. Michael Scott said, adapt, react, readapt, apt. So you've got to fit to your surroundings, kind of see what's going on. Oh, something happened, react to it, readapt to it, see what's going on again after that happens, get ready again, and then you're ready.
I will never ever be inspired professionally or personally by anything Michael Scott ever said. I will laugh at it, but I will never ever.
I think it's funny, but I think that, he said it in a way that was like, wow, that's it kind of makes sense.
Okay.
You kind of do have to do steps a few times.
I can definitely see that.
Yeah. That's what at first I laughed at it because it was such like a rhyming thing, kinda, and it was just a silly line. But then I thought about it and I was like, that's kind of interesting the way that they portrayed that in the show.
Mm-hmm.
And that is one of my favorite shows.
Mm-hmm.
So glad that they came across that. But yeah, it's been a wild ride here. The wild ride's going to continue. And I'm glad that you're my first guest.
So yeah, you've planned other guests.
Yeah,
I've seen your list.
I've got a list of people that I want to have on.
And what's the point of having these different people on your podcast?
I want to learn, and all these people are different people with different mindsets, different backgrounds, different strengths, different weaknesses, and I think that I can learn something from each and every one of them. And I also think that they can learn something from me. But this is something that I think is really cool. I love good conversation, and being able to put this out there for other people to listen to and to hopefully gain something from.
Yeah.
While I myself can gain something from it.
Yeah.
Is a really cool opportunity.
Yeah. Almost selfishly, I want you to start asking me about me.
Yeah.
I mean, if you have all these other people on to talk about themselves.
I mean, not really talk about themselves, because,
No?
I guess everything you say is an expression of what you're feeling and what you've been through, so it is kind of about you. But it's not directly like, what are you doing today? How do you feel today? It's kind of like we're talking about aliens, like, I guess what do you think about it,
Yeah.
So it is kind of about you, but at the same time we're talking about something different.
Yeah. Yeah, we're talking through it about something that, topics that you brought up.
Yeah. And something me and you love to do is talk about the nuances and the ins and outs, the nooks and crannies of stuff.
Yeah, I can
Yeah.
be precise about the meaning of words.
Yeah, and we can go on and on, like that whole chair thing. When I was sitting on the table and Dad was like, "Yeah, I don't want you sitting on the table," and we were just going at it. I just love discussion.
What was the whole thing?
He was like, "I don't want you sitting on the table. You could use a chair," and I was like, "Well, the table at that point was more comfortable. It was my chair." And he was like, "No, a chair is a chair. Well, then why have a chair at all? Why, And we just went in circles and went in different places. I don't remember exactly where it went.
Yeah.
But it was a very, nuance, just really into it, into the nitty-gritty discussion, which he's not a big fan of. I love doing that. Because I think it's just really interesting. You really get to dig deep and figure stuff out in your own mind. It's thought-provoking stuff sometimes. That's what I love.
Yeah.
Getting into the nitty-gritty of things. And I know you can enjoy that sometimes too.
Yeah.
But for
Very
a lot
much
of people, it's annoying. It's like, just like it is what it is. Let's just talk about the surface. But if you go under the surface, there's over 90% of the ocean that we haven't discovered. And that's what I want to talk about. I want to talk about the 90% that nobody else is talking about.
I gotta caution you, people are talking about it.
Yeah, it's just not as mainstream. I know there are a lot of people talking about stuff, which I'm super happy about.
It's also difficult to formulate a stance on something in ways that people will accept when that something is 90% unknown.
Yeah. Yeah, the unknown. The great unknown is it's scary. It's something I get scared. Is like, what's going to happen? It's the whole anxiety thing, is the unknown. You don't know what's going to happen, so you get anxious about something. And that's something that I deal with, and I know that's something that you've dealt with. And we've had different experiences, with different situations, but in the end, it makes me stronger. I know that.
What does?
Having to deal with anxiety.
How does dealing with anxiety make you stronger?
because I am able to look at things, I'm anxious about something, but then I can look back to when I'm anxious, and I can take something from it, and then the next time I can do something different.
Mm-hmm.
And I can say...
It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. I can say... And then I can apply it to other areas. I can see where I wasn't only doing that when I was anxious. I was doing that just the other day when I was, having a conversation with somebody. I was being pessimistic. I was telling myself, there's no way it's going to work.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't anxious then. I was just doubting myself or doubting somebody else. And not that you have to be optimistic all the time, but it's easy to get down on yourself, get pessimistic, doubt other people, and you gotta trust yourself. You gotta be yourself, and I think it'll all work out if you have the best intentions in mind, whatever you're doing. Wherever you may be in your life, it doesn't matter if you have it all or if you have nothing. If you're doing the best you possibly can, I don't think that anybody can stop you. If you're trying your hardest and you want it to work and you've got your best intentions in mind, I don't think anybody can stop you.
Those are words a lot of people would appreciate hearing.
Yeah. Just keep going. Be yourself. Do something good for yourself every day. Whether that's reading a book for 20 minutes or you had a long shift at work, take a nap. Do something you truly love doing, and at the end of the day, if you can say, I did this, I'm proud of it, you had a good day. You did something, you did work that you were proud of, that you enjoyed doing, that benefited you, that benefited somebody else. You had a good day. And that's something me and you were talking about, is at the end of the day, I never try and go to bed angry or upset or frustrated. I try and go to bed with either nothing on my mind or something positive on my mind. Because I want access to the best possible things when I'm dreaming.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I do breathing exercises before I sleep, because when you breathe oxygen, your melatonin, your serotonin, it's just feeding that, the chemicals, the endorphins in your brain. It feeds that. That's why when you're anxious, doing breathing exercises, it helps you, because those are your feel good,
You're reminding me to breathe well right now.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And you always told me, you said, do your belly breathing, do your breathing exercises, and I try and do that every night.
Wow.
Just so I can clear my mind, get ready for the next day, and say, you know what? Doesn't matter what happened today. It matters if you can go there again tomorrow and do something better than you did the next day. One of my baseball coaches, he walks around and he's always saying this. He's saying he's beating a dead horse. But he always says, always be working on something. Don't just be going through the motions. Always be working on something. And that's what I try and do. I don't just go through the motions of a day, you wake up, you use the bathroom, brush your teeth, get dressed, eat breakfast, because that's very, like, what are you doing during that time? Oh, I'm brushing my teeth, but I'm also, doing something else at the same time. I'm also doing eye exercises at the same time as I'm brushing my teeth. Just doing these little things. Always be working on something no matter what you're doing. And it's okay to take a break. I'm not saying you gotta be working on something all the time. But always be working on something that could benefit you.
ABWOSTBY. Wait, sorry. ABWOS something TCY. Always work on something that could benefit you. That could. Oh, I still got it wrong.
Yeah. Always be working on something that could benefit you. And everybody makes mistakes. Everybody's going to mess up. But that doesn't matter. You learn from your mistakes. And you
matters.
You said, well, yeah. But it doesn't. But it doesn't matter. Like, you're not the only person that does it. Everybody does it.
But it matters.
Yeah, I'm not saying that it doesn't matter. Okay. Maybe I misspoke.
Sure.
Everybody makes a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
Every single day. But you have to go after that mistake. You have to seek that mistake out. Look it in the eye and say, I'm going to fix you. Because a lot of people make a mistake and they try to, I'm going to avoid that mistake. I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to do that again. Right? But if you go up to the mistake and say, hey, mistake, look him in the eye and say, I'm going to fix you. I'm going to face you head on. I'm going to do something about you.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of saying, I'm just going to avoid you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to avoid the mistake. You've got all the power in the world. When you can look your mistake in the eye and say, hey, you, I don't give a shit. I'm going to beat you.
Yeah, but you gotta be careful of one of your mistakes as a woman.
That's a different topic.
Can't be beating people these days.
Yeah, I guess not.
Maybe 60 years ago was more okay, but it's... Well, maybe not more okay, but...
Morally, I don't think it's ever okay to...
Yeah, but it was less taboo.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, which is difficult because we're all like here and now, like, that's terrible. We couldn't do that. If we went 60 years ago, 70 years ago, and people were doing that, and we were just living in that time.
Well, it's just me that we are products of our upbringing.
Yeah. The upbringing has changed.
Yeah.
It's changed.
Yeah. So I don't think you can really criticize people too strongly for what they've done in the past because, again, there are reasons for the way we are and we're products of our upbringing in a lot of ways.
Yeah. Well, this is where we have reached our time for today.
Okay. Well, thanks
I hate to cut it short, but we've got some stuff to do today. But thank you again to everybody that's helped put this thing together. It will be repaid to you sometime in the future. I know that. Whether it's me doing something for you or something else very good happening for you, because this is a very good thing that's happened for me. So, thank you, Christopher. And thank you, world. It's a great experience, great time. This has been From the Outside In. Peace, love, and positivity always. Take care of yourselves. Love you.